In the vast level terrain of southern Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers merged to form rich alluvial landscapes, people began their initial experiments with lasting documentation around 3200 BCE. The Sumerians, using sharpened reeds to imprint marks on soft clay slabs, inadvertently laid the groundwork for every future system of writing that followed. These primitive wedge-shaped symbols, starting as basic images to track grain allotments and animal inventories, gradually transformed into intricate tales that echoed narratives eventually enshrined in sacred scriptures. Evidence from digs shows that by 2600 BCE, Sumerian record keepers were capturing elaborate mythical stories, predating the oldest written holy texts by over 2 millennia. These hardened clay pieces, either sun-dried or intentionally baked to endure, have withstood ages of turmoil from wars, environmental calamities, and shifts in societies that erased many other old artifacts. The resilience of this material has been a boon for today's researchers, as fragile papyrus rolls and timber boards from neighboring cultures mostly decayed away, positioning the Sumerian collection as the main portal to our species' first documented reflections on origins, godly involvement, and ethical guidance. The sprawling urban center of Uruk, dominating the area with its towering stepped pyramid, aspiring skyward, likely emerged as the key origin point for storytelling in script. Discoveries from unearthed sites indicate that educational hubs for scribes in Uruk were crafting advanced literary pieces by 2700 BCE. From these institutions came the world's oldest known literary masterpiece, the Gilgamesh saga, which included vivid depictions of a massive inundation closely mirroring the scriptural flood account. In the Sumerian version, a figure named Utnapishtim gets a heavenly alert to build a boat and safeguard existence, aligning closely in outline and particulars with the tale of Noah. Inside Uruk's sacred enclosures, religious leaders curated vast collections of tablets where origin legends were meticulously safeguarded. The Sumerian origin poem called the Eridu Genesis outlines how people were shaped from earth and godly exhalation, the founding of initial settlements, and the growing decay that prompted celestial retribution via deluge. Such motifs resurface in later holy writings, though the Sumerian renditions include extra nuances and varied viewpoints hinting at a richer ancestral lore that scriptural composers borrowed from. According to subsequent traditions in Judaism, the settlement of Ur, linked to the scriptural forefather Abraham, hosted one of antiquity's most refined repositories within its holy grounds. Digs led by Leonard Woolley in the 1920s unearthed vast numbers of slabs spanning 2100 to 600 BCE, many holding mythical tales centuries older than scriptural drafts. These finds encompassed thorough portrayals of heavenly assemblies, celestial entities, and epic struggles between harmony and disorder, which later shaped scriptural ideas about angelic hierarchies and end times visions. The regal burial grounds exposed interment customs and spiritual convictions that shed light on the societal backdrop from which holy stories arose. Lavish graves, equipped with ritually slain companions and valuable offerings, point to an advanced belief system regarding the hereafter and sacred rulership. Inscriptions unearthed in these funeral settings detail the passage of souls through netherworld domains, led by heavenly envoys and evaluated by ethical standards that foreshadow scriptural notions of godly fairness and everlasting penalty. Eridu, held sacred by Sumerians as the god's inaugural urban creation, harbored sacred records that captured some of the earliest philosophical musings on divinity. Clerics in Eridu asserted their locale as the prime seat of heavenly insight, with their inscriptions featuring origin tales of structure arising from primeval seas via godly utterance. These Eridu legends utilize particular wording and visuals that echo in the initial sections of Genesis, implying either outright borrowing or collective ancestral recollections. The temple area in Eridu, devoted to the deity of waters Enki, functioned as a storehouse for texts on wisdom, delving into core inquiries about mortal essence, celestial equity, and ethical duties. Recovered documents from these holdings portray the original humans as entities fashioned to aid the deities, yet endowed with autonomy that unavoidably resulted in ethical lapses and godly dismay. This doctrinal structure, honed in Eridu's writing academies, supplied the intellectual base for subsequent holy tales of human defiance and celestial reaction. Although Babylon reached its peak influence later in regional chronicles, it expanded on prior Sumerian storytelling customs and salvaged numerous antique writings that might have vanished otherwise. The renowned archive of Ashurbanipal in Babylon included reproductions of Sumerian compositions from the 3rd millennium BCE, encompassing renditions of inundation stories, origin legends, and insightful texts that illustrate the persistence of these customs through eras of governmental shifts. Scribes in Babylon did more than just copy older Sumerian works. They fashioned fresh pieces that blended various customs into unified doctrinal setups. The Babylonian origin saga, Enuma Elish, merged prior Sumerian origin reports with newer spiritual advancements, yielding a refined view of the universe that impacted later holy authors. The saga's portrayal of godly clashes with turmoil beasts and the ensuing arrangement of existence via heavenly command offered a pattern that scriptural creators would adjust for their own origin accounts. The excavation location of Nippur, viewed as the spiritual hub of Old Sumer, has produced what might be the most vital assortment of early legendary writings. Efforts by German and American teams starting in the 1880s revealed over 30,000 slabs from Nippur's holy libraries, covering almost 2,000 years of ongoing literary output. Included were various editions of deluge tales, origin descriptions, and teachings on ethics that show how these customs progressed. Nippur's writing institutions operated as instructional facilities where novice clerics mastered duplicating and analyzing antique writings, guaranteeing their endurance over time. The uniformization of these tales in Nippur's learning framework generated authoritative editions that affected storytelling customs across the region and further afield. Numerous slabs from Nippur bear side annotations and explanations by old experts, disclosing refined analytical methods that later holy interpreters would adopt. The unearthing at Nippur highlighted the methodical arrangement of antique repositories, with slabs precisely indexed and housed by topic and style. Legends of beginnings clustered in groups, deluge accounts formed dedicated sets, and insightful writings filled distinct areas in the holy storerooms. Such setup underscores the intentional safeguarding of particular storytelling customs that ancient clerics deemed vital for grasping heavenly intent and mortal fate. Sumerian record keepers crafted advanced methods for converting spoken lore into scripted formats, devising stylistic tools that retain the cadence and recall aids of verbal tales while fitting them to textual demands. Employing mirrored arrangements, repeated expressions, and metrical flows in Sumerian works shows keen focus on both conservation and creative impact. These approaches later manifest in holy verse and prose, pointing to straightforward borrowing or joint heritage. Shifting from verbal to scripted lore in Sumerian society went beyond mere notation. It demanded fresh stylistic norms capable of expressing the heartfelt and sacred force of oral tales via inscribed signs. Sumerian record keepers devised ornate opening phrases, fixed descriptors for heavenly figures, and regular story progressions that grew into hallmark traits of antique regional writings. holy storerooms across Sumer held not just legendary tales, but also ceremonial writings that outlined correct enactments of spiritual rites tied to these narratives. Merging story and rite shows these writings served as practical guides for genuine spiritual activities, not just artistic pursuits. Experts in holy studies have noted many similarities between Sumerian rite directives and subsequent Israelite ritual rules, indicating ongoing links in spiritual conduct alongside storytelling customs. The importance of Sumerian clerics in upholding and conveying these customs is immense. These spiritual experts acted as protectors of age-old knowledge and engaged explainers who tailored classic tales to tackle current issues. Their revising efforts, shown by differing editions of similar core stories, uncover a vibrant custom that advanced while upholding central spiritual and ethical tenets. Sumerian clerics' conservation work transcended basic recording, building a huge array of deluge tales that deeply shaped how civilizations viewed heavenly verdict and endurance. Of these kept reports, the account of Ziusudra stands out as the oldest recognized deluge survivor, his story outdating the scriptural Noah by more than 1,000 years. The Sumerian deluge legend, initially etched on clay around 2100 BCE, offers a strikingly thorough narrative that holds notable likenesses to later regional and Hebrew editions, yet features distinctive aspects that disclose the primal societal setting from which every following deluge custom sprang. In initial Sumerian writings, Ziusudra emerges as a sovereign and cleric governing Shuruppak in the era before the flood, when deities mingled with mortals and interactions between realms were commonplace. The Sumerian roster of rulers, a key timeline that splits history into before and after the deluge, names Ziusudra as the final leader prior to the catastrophe, assigning him a mythical tenure of 36,000 years, typical of pre-flood monarchy in legendary reckoning. Findings from Shuruppak, now Tel Farah in Iraq, display broad flood layers from about 2900 BCE, implying that real overflow incidents in this zone supplied the factual base for the legendary tale. Enki, the guardian god of insight and pure waters, features in the Sumerian rendition as the heavenly entity, alerting Ziusudra to the looming disaster. Differing from subsequent tales, where the overflow signifies penalty for mortal vice, the older Sumerian writings frame the flood as stemming from godly annoyance at human clamor and crowding that interrupted divine repose. Enki's alert arrives indirectly via a reed barrier, necessitating Ziusudra to align himself to catch the overheard godly dialogue. This roundabout exchange method mirrors Sumerian doctrinal ideas on fitting limits between sacred and mortal spheres, stressing that unmediated contact demanded unique situations and mediating tools. Building specifics in Sumerian writings display a deep grasp of vessel-making skills that hint at real expertise in surviving floods. Ziusudra gets exact directives to assemble a craft with certain woods, sealing substances, and supports that show acquaintance with genuine boating methods instead of pure fantasy. Sizes noted in assorted slab pieces suggest a large boat able to accommodate many individuals and creatures, although precise figures spark academic discussion owing to partial survival of key sections. Digs at Sumerian locations have found signs of refined carpentry instruments and boat-building sites that verify the tech prowess needed for big ships. In the 3rd millennium BCE, locating bitumen sources and reed tools in flood-prone zones indicates local groups had the supplies and abilities outlined in the legendary reports. This overlap of story and dig proof suggests the Sumerian deluge legend kept true societal recall of real tactics used in historic floods. The Akkadian Gilgamesh saga, crafted around 2100 BCE, yet holding older Sumerian content, reshapes Ziusudra into Utnapishtim and places him in a fresh story setup, stressing ideas of death and the pursuit of endless life. Utnapishtim surfaces in the saga's 11th slab as the deluge escapee who gained undying status via heavenly grace. Acting as the holder of vital data, Gilgamesh chases in his frantic bid to evade demise. The Akkadian edition keeps many exact elements from prior Sumerian tales, while altering them to fit the saga's wider doctrinal and thoughtful aims. Utnapishtim's report details getting a sacred alert from Ea, the Akkadian counterpart to Enki, who orders him to tear down his home and construct a ship from the salvaged parts. This element, missing from later holy versions, echoes sensible concerns familiar to ancient regional listeners, who often dealt with overflows and knew the need to reuse building supplies for endurance. The command to mislead his community about his actions, asserting the craft was for fleeing godly fury on his town, brings in motifs of trickery and survival that muddle straightforward ethical readings of the tale. The Akkadian rendition gives the fullest outline of the ship's assembly, stating precise sizes of 120 cubits for length, breadth, and elevation, forming an ideal square that mirrors regional math and building ideals. The vessel has 7 levels split into 9 sections with assigned zones for varied loads and riders. Such design particulars exhibit detailed forethought exceeding mere story creation, hinting at kept know-how of ship assembly within the legendary structure. The motif of creature safeguarding shows up in both Sumerian and Akkadian editions with notable steadiness, detailing the organized gathering of mating pairs from every kind to secure life continuity after the flood. Utnapishtim's tale notes he loaded his kin, artisans with gear, household beasts, and untamed animals, forming a full survival group rather than just keeping living samples. This focus on saving human expertise and lore beside biological variety shows a deep awareness of requirements for rebuilding society after disaster. The bird scouting series, found in both regional versions and later holy tales, shows striking story uniformity across societies and ages. Utnapishtim recounts sending out a dove first, then a swallow, and last a raven to check if overflow waters had dropped enough for secure exit. Each bird's actions give exact data on surroundings, with dove and swallow coming back when no fit spots existed, while the raven's absence signaled available food and falling levels. This methodical environmental check mirrors real insight into bird habits, vital for true flood endurance. The peak landing spots in regional tales name exact land features that match real terrain in the area. The Sumerian edition sets Ziusudra's boat on Mount Nisir, while Akkadian writings name Mount Nemush, both pointing to high spots in the Zagros range, where flood evaders would seek refuge naturally. Surveys of these zones have shown old dwelling patterns, indicating regular people shifts to higher ground during rainy floods, bolstering the real likelihood of the legendary reports. The Sumerian ruler roster's view of the deluge as a clear history split deeply affected all later regional timeline setups and gave the idea base for seeing history as split into clear phases divided by sacred action. The text plainly says, "The flood overwhelmed," then lists after floodlines whose rules are in more believable human spans instead of the legendary thousands for before flood leaders. This timeline setup made a model that later holy timeline makers would use for their own history divisions. After flood regional ruler rosters regularly cite the deluge as the key happening that divided the time of straight godly rule from the age of mortal sovereignty under sacred watch. This doctrinal reading changed historic flooding from natural woe into universal restart, setting the deluge tale as basic to grasping the right link between sacred and mortal power. This timeline idea's reach spread through old regional societies and supplied the idea base for holy division of human past. Earth science studies in Mesopotamia pinpoint several rounds of disastrous flooding that align with dig proof of society breaks and people moves. Samples from the Persian Gulf show huge freshwater rushes in the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE, showing the Tigris-Euphrates setup had regular extreme floods that would ruin low areas. These Earth events timing matches closely with timeline structures in Sumerian writings, suggesting legendary tales kept precise societal recall of real nature disasters. The dig record at many Mesopotamian spots shows clear flood layers that split older culture levels from later living phases, giving solid proof for the broad upset that sparked deluge tales. Digs at Ur, Uruk, Kish, and Shuruppak all found thick sediment layers without artifacts, pointing to times when these places were fully left due to flooding. These layers' uniformity across sites hints at area-wide rather than spot-specific floods that would need joint survival efforts like those in legendary reports. Water flow studies of the Mesopotamian rivers show extreme floods came from mixes of factors like rainy season changes, snow thaw in Armenian highs, and occasional river path shifts that focused water in certain spots. Southern Mesopotamia's flat land meant small water rises could cover huge zones, pushing groups to higher ground, or build floating refuges for safety. These nature facts gave the useful base for building legendary deluge tales. Changing local flood happenings into worldwide overflow tales shows refined doctrinal reading that drew universal meaning from area woes. Regional record keepers saw catastrophic flooding as sacred control over human society, and used these to probe basic questions on sacred fairness, mortal duty, and needs for group endurance. Making deluge tales universal helped share these doctrinal views with groups who might not have faced similar nature woes directly. The doctrinal meanings from regional deluge tales set idea structures that went past disaster endurance, building refined models for grasping humanity's link with sacred power in the natural realm. Those same Sumerian writing customs that kept deluge reports also held thorough origin tales that outlined humanity's starting pure state, gaining banned lore, and later immortality loss. The haven of Dilmun, key in the Sumerian saga, Enki and Nin-Hursag, shows a primeval park where sacred beings lived in full accord with nature, setting story precedents that later show in Holy Eden tales with notable uniformity in setup and exact elements. Dilmun shows in Sumerian writings as an untouched zone at the Persian Gulf's outlet, where pure springs rose from soil and backed lush plants without human work. Digs in Bahrain and East Saudi Arabia link this legendary spot with the historic Dilmun society that thrived as a trade hub from 2800 to 600 BCE. Finds at Qalat al-Bahrain have shown broad holy complexes, advanced water control, and grave hills that prove the area's wealth and spiritual role through old Mesopotamian past. Linking legendary Dilmun to real Bahrain gives land routing for grasping how Sumerian record keepers changed actual places into doctrinal signs for humanity's starting tie with sacred care. The Sumerian saga outlines Dilmun as in a state of original flawlessness, where no sickness, growing old, or dying hit its dwellers. The writing notes that in Dilmun, lions avoided kills, wolves skipped lamb thefts, and boars shunned grain eating, painting a picture of natural peace that removed hunting and rivalry from the setup. This outline sets Dilmun as outside usual natural flows, standing for a sacred domain where godly will kept perfect balance without the fight for life that marked regular being. No death or harm in Dilmun gave a doctrinal model for seeing Haven as basically unlike earthly life, not just a better form of normal days. Enki's part in the Dilmun tale includes supplying pure water to change barren sand into fertile haven, showing sacred control over land conditions that set human endurance chances. The saga outlines Enki making springs burst from below, forming streams that watered the whole area and backed rich plant growth without needing human farm toil. This change sets the rule that Haven comes from straight sacred action, not human work, making settings where life needs are met by magic supply instead of natural ways or tech advances. Bringing Ninhursag into the Dilmun tale adds ideas of birth, growth, and line following that add layers to the starting endless perfection. Ninhursag, the birth goddess tied to soil growth, starts making offspring with Enki, building a line of sacred beings who fill the haven. The saga outlines many generations of these holy births, each standing for varied parts of natural events and human life. This line growth brings time flow into the endless haven, hinting that even ideal settings hold built-in pulls toward shift and depth. Enki's eating of banned plants marks the key shift in the Dilmun tale, matching the holy report of forbidden fruit eating with strong idea likeness despite varied exact parts. The Sumerian writing outlines Ninhursag raising 8 exact plants in the haven, each with special traits and set roles in the setup. Enki's eating happens despite Ninhursag's clear ban, bringing ideas of sacred defiance and unallowed lore gain that later show in holy writings with like ethical weights. Results of Enki's wrong include body breakdown and start of dying signs that change the god from endless perfection to a being open to aging, sickness, and final end. The saga outlines 8 body parts of Enki hit with exact ills, matching the 8 plants eaten, making a straight cause link between banned lore gain and body ruin. This change sets the doctrinal rule that defying sacred ban leads to basic change in the wrongdoer's nature, not just outside penalty, foreseeing holy ideas of passed down wrong and dying as outcomes of starting defiance. Ninhursag's curing action gives fix to Enki's state by making 8 curing deities, each made to handle one ill from plant eating. This inventive reply changes wrong results into chances for sacred kindness and fix. Though the starting pure innocence can't be fully regained, the curing sets examples for sacred rescue that keep fairness while giving paths for fix, building doctrinal structures that would shape later ideas of sacred pardon and rescue. The Sumerian origin legend, Enki and Ninmah, gives detailed reports of humanity's shaping from Earth that predate holy origin tales by ages, while sharing basic idea parts that hint at straight writing link or joint heritage. The saga outlines the deity's choice to make humans as laborers for farm and build tasks that sacred beings found tiring and dull. This useful reason for human making differs sharply from later holy reports that stress humanity's special tie with sacred power, showing varied doctrinal views on human aim and worth in universal order. Enki and Ninmah's joint making process includes forming human shapes from clay, blended with sacred spit, blood, or other fluids that give life and awareness to lifeless stuff. The Sumerian writing gives exact details on clay prep, including its riverbank source and mixing with substances for right molding feel. These tech notes show know-how of real pottery ways while using them as figures for sacred making action, hinting Sumerian record keepers used craft know-how to think on doctrinal secrets. The making process in Enki and Ninmah includes many tries to get good human models, with early ones making flawed beings missing key skills, or with too many limits that block good work. The saga outlines making people who can't lift heads, control body acts, or have other body blocks needing sacred care instead of allowing useful work. These failed tries set the rule that good making needs close focus on design specs and show sacred learning like human craft growth. The winning human models by Enki and Ninmah have balanced skills enabling solo endurance and helpful aid to sacred beings. The saga notes, humans get enough smarts to grasp orders and do complex jobs, but limited lore that stops challenging sacred power or reaching risky info. This set limit places humanity between beasts lacking reason and deities with endless know-how and strength. The doctrinal structure from these limits would deeply shape later holy ideas of human essence and right ties with sacred power. The Adapa tale, kept in many Akkadian editions, drawing from older Sumerian roots, probes ideas of banned lore and lost endless life through story setups that foresee holy reports of humanity's drop from haven. Adapa shows as the first human made by Enki, given great insight and acting as top cleric in Eridu. Digs from Eridu confirm the site's role as one of earliest Sumerian homes and main spiritual hub for Enki worship, giving past setting for grasping Adapa's part in real rite acts, not just legend make. Adapa's meet with the south wind sets the story frame for probing outcomes of human acts on universal order and sacred reply to mortal bold. The legend outlines Adapa fishing in the Persian Gulf when the south wind flips his boat, leading him to curse the wind and snap its wings via sacred know-how from Enki. This supernatural payback shows human ability to affect natural forces with right use of sacred insight, but also shows risky chance for mortals to upset universal harmony with unchecked supernatural use. The sacred call bringing Adapa before Anu, heaven's top god, makes a setup where humanity's first stand-in must handle divine fairness and universal law complexities. Enki's prep of Adapa for this sky trip includes exact notes on rite acts, fitting replies to sacred questions, and key warnings on refusing any food or drink from the sky court. These prep notes show deep grasp of sacred rules and risky nature of direct mortal-immortal touch, setting examples for later holy reports of human meets with sacred power. The vital point in Adapa's sky trip happens when Anu offers bread and water of life that would give endless life and change him from dying human to undying sacred being. Adapa's no, following Enki's clear orders, stands for one of humanity's biggest missed chances and sets the doctrinal rule that dying comes from human pick, not sacred holdback of endless life. The twist in this no, where following sacred order causes loss of endless life that sacred light could give, makes complex doctrinal questions on obedience and final gain link. Adapa's no results spread past his own fate to set lasting human dying for all later lines. The legend notes Adapa's choice fixes humanity's dying nature as unchangeable universal law, blocking future humans from endless life that stayed possible for the first human stand-in. This doctrinal structure changes single choice into whole kind fate, making examples for holy ideas of starting wrong and past dying that hit all humanity based on early choices by stand-in figures. Anu's reply to Adapa's no includes giving other gifts that make up for lost endless life, while keeping basic split between sacred and human essence. The legend outlines Adapa getting cleric power, cure know-how, and culture insight that let him act as link between sacred and human realms. These make-up gifts set the rule that sacred kindness gives other blessing forms when top wants can't be met, building doctrinal structures for grasping how sacred fairness works in universal limits that keep right borders between being orders. Life tree signs that show through Sumerian art and writings give visual and idea shows of endless life ideas that later show in Holy Haven tales with notable uniformity in sign, meaning, and art show. Tube seals from early rule times show styled trees guarded by sacred figures or legend creatures, often with water flows from tree base to feed nearby plants. These art shows set the tree as sign of sacred life-giving strength that keeps both natural and magic being via direct tie to universal vitality sources. Digs at Sumerian holy sites have found many art shows of sacred trees tied to exact deities and rite acts that show the signs blend into real spiritual watch, not just writing figure. Carved wall art from temples at Uruk, and Lagash show clerics doing ceremonies before styled trees, often holding bowls with water or other stuff used in growth rites. These dig settings show life tree signs worked in useful spiritual systems that sought sacred life-giving strength via rite handling of sign shows. The repeating idea of humanity's lost endless life shows through Sumerian writings in varied story settings that probe different parts of dying and sacred like Link. Saga tales, insight writings, and rite texts all cite the early time when humans had endless life chance, but lost it via varied wrongs or fails to meet sacred needs. This steady idea focus hints Sumerian culture kept strong societal recall of a time when mortal-immortal border was less set and human picks could set basic universal fate parts. The steady focus on humanity's lost endless life that filled Sumerian writings set idea bases for grasping sacred human ties that spread past single wrong to include group human bold and its universal outcomes. Those same writing customs that kept origin and haven tales also noted humanity's tries to bridge Earth's sacred gap via huge builds, making massive holy towers that stretched skyward in bold efforts to make direct sacred touch. Mesopotamia's ziggurats, rising from level sediment plains like man-made peaks topped with holy rooms, stood as humanity's boldest build shows of spiritual zeal and universal hope. Yet these builds later sparked tales of sacred verdict against human bold that found top fame in the Holy Tower of Babel report. Babylon's Etemenanke ziggurat, whose name means Foundation House of Sky and Land, stood as the grandest sample of regional holy tower build, and likely main spark for holy tales of humanity's try to build a heaven-reaching tower. Digs by German teams from 1899 to 1917 showed the huge base platform, about 91 meters square at bottom, and once rising to around 91 meters over 7 levels. Each level used millions of mud bricks covered with baked ones and bitumen seal, making a stepped stack that ruled Babylon's view and acted as city spiritual and civic core. Buildways in Etemenanke show refined engineering know-how that let regional builders make stable, huge builds with local stuff. Base level had solid mud brick core, ringed by thick baked brick shell with drain setups through to stop water harm in rainy floods. Builders used complex brick lock patterns and bitumen seal that made flexible joins able to handle settling and shakes without full break. These engineering fixes stand for ages of built know-how on large builds in tough land settings. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, gave detailed Etemenanke outlines based on his own Babylon visits, noting sizes and build parts that mostly match dig-proof found ages later. His report says the ziggurat had 8 levels linked by outer ramps spiraling the edge, letting clerics and followers climb to top holy room. Uppermost level had sacred space with gold table and bed, where god Marduk was thought to rest in earth visits, making physical spot for direct sacred human meat. Rites done in Etemenanke included ornate ceremonies to keep universal order via rite worship and sacred calm, mirroring doctrinal ideas that saw the ziggurat as link axis between earth and sky realms. Wedge texts from Babylon's holy stores outline daily gifts, season feasts, and special rites at varied levels, each to handle exact sacred human tie and group well parts. The Akitu New Year feast peaked with king climbing ziggurat top for sacred bless and rule renew, showing the build's key role in making political power legit via spiritual rite. The Sumerian saga Enmerkar and Arata's Lord keeps the oldest known writing report of language mix and universal talk break that later shows in Holy Babel Tower Tales with strong idea parallels despite varied exact settings. The saga outlines an early time when all humanity used one tongue and honored same deities, making settings for joint culture growth and shared spiritual grasp. This tongue unity allowed huge build works and joint spiritual watches that showed humanity's group skill for success when working together on shared aims. Enmerkar, Uruk's legend king, shows in the saga as ruler seeking to force Far Arata to give precious stuff and skilled makers for holy build works to honor deities and boost Uruk prestige. The tale outlines ornate talk swaps between cities via messengers carrying complex word messages over huge distances without script to ensure right send. These talk rules show refined systems for keeping far talk in before writing groups, while stressing challenges in pure word send across culture borders. Talk break between Uruk and Arata happens when talk message depth exceeds human recall, forcing Enmerkar to make script as fix for word send limits. The saga outlines this make as sacred spark that lets right keep of complex info over time and distance, changing human talk skills and enabling new culture joint ways. But script bring also makes chances for misgrasp and trick that add layers rather than ease cross-culture ties, setting ideas on tech news mixed outcomes that show through regional writings. Language mix following script make an Enmerkar saga comes from sacred action to stop human joint on works that threat universal order by letting mortals gain godlike skills via joint effort. The writing outlines god Enki on purpose, mixing human speech so varied groups grow distinct tongues that block good talk and joint. This sacred action changes tongue variety from natural culture growth to magic penalty for human bold, building doctrinal structures that see culture diffs as proof of sacred verdict, not organic group change. Digs from late 4th millennium, BCE Uruk, confirm real huge build works needing joint work from many groups and refined setup systems to handle resources and worker joint. Finds show special craft areas, admin stores, and huge builds that prove the city's skill for large works like saga outlines. Uruk's Anu Ziggurat, from about 3500 BCE, stands as one of humanity's earliest huge holy tower tries, and gives solid proof for build bold that sparked later writing reports of sacred human clash over build works. Uruk Anu Ziggurat's white temple top had ornate decor parts, including cone patterns, carved walls, and precious metal adds that show refined art skills and access to far stuff. Dig study of these decor shows trade links from Afghanistan to Egypt, showing early ziggurat build needed world joint and resource joint of amazing range and depth. Such work's good finish shows early regional groups had setup skills and culture unity needed for successes that later writing customs would see as threat to sacred power. The Babylon Chronicle and other wedge admin texts give detailed notes of ziggurat build works that show huge scale of resources and work needed for these. Etemenanki rebuild in Neo-Babylon time used over 10,000 workers for years, using millions of bricks and thousands of bitumen and metal tons for strength. These notes dock the methodical setup of craft experts, raw stuff get, and worker handle that let finish of works whose size topped any prior human try. Nabopolassar's note, marking Etemenanki rebuild, outlines the king's will to finish the tower whose peak should match sky, using words that straight match Holy Babel. tower outlines while giving past setting for grasping such works as right king piety shows, not rebel human bold. The note stresses sacred okay for the build work, and outlines it as meeting spiritual duties, not challenging sacred power, showing varied culture views on huge builds and right worship link. The Ur Ziggurat, known as Ur-Nammu's Great Ziggurat, stands as one of best-kept samples of regional holy tower build, and gives key proof for grasping build ways and right roles that mark these builds through their 2,000-year use past. Built around 2100 BCE in Ur's third line, the build once rose about 30 meters over nearby flat and backed a holy complex for moon god Nana. 20th century restore work showed refined drain systems, inner stairs, and strength adds that prove advanced engineering know-how fitted to local land settings. The 3 stairs to Ziggurat top meet at a gate that controlled entry to sacred areas, and let clerics rule who could near the sacred presence in top holy room. This build setup mirrors doctrinal ideas on rising holiness levels, needing step purify and okay for those seeking direct sacred touch. The build's height and controlled entry physical blocks changed spiritual watch from group join to level privilege, setting examples for holy setup that shaped spiritual builds through Old Near East. Wedge slabs found in ziggurat base holds have dedicate notes and rite orders that show doctrinal aims these builds served in regional spiritual systems. The texts outline the ziggurat as earth home for sacred beings who came from sky to get worship and give human group guide. This doctrinal structure places ziggurats as working links between universal realms, not just sign shows, making expects for real sacred presence and action that needed careful right keep to ensure ongoing sacred like. The Dur Untash ziggurat near modern Chogazanbil gives proof for ongoing build and fix of holy towers through Mesopotamian past, showing these builds lasting culture weight despite shift politics and spiritual changes. Built in Kassite time around 1250 BCE by Elam king Untashnapirisha, this build blended usual regional build ways with local new that fitted basic ziggurat shape to diff culture and land settings. The area around the ziggurat includes many temples, king graves, and admin builds that show how holy tower build acted as core for full city plan and spiritual setup. Chogazanbil Ziggurat's good keep state gives key proof for grasping original look and inner setup of these builds lost at more harmed spots. The build's step outline, outer stairs, and top holy room show standard build parts that mark ziggurat design across diff times and culture settings. The structure's now height of about 25 meters stands for only lower part of original, which dig study hints rose to at least 50 meters, and maybe more, making a true huge presence that ruled nearby land. Assyrian king notes from 9th and 8th centuries BCE outline ziggurat build and fix works as basic shows of king piety and sacred, like that made political power legit via shown spiritual zeal. These texts show regional rulers saw ziggurat build as both spiritual duty and politics need, making monuments that acted as sacred being homes and king power signs at once. The huge resource put in these works shows central role holy tower builds played in keeping group unity and politics legit through regional society. Tech challenges beat in ziggurat build needed new and stuff science, structure engineering, and build handle that advanced human tech skills while serving spiritual aims. Fired brick make growth, bitumen seal, and complex drain systems made build ways that let unprecedented size and height builds. These tech advances, first made for spiritual builds, later found use in non-holy build works that changed city growth through Old Near East and set engineering rules that shaped build customs for thousands of years. The tech advances first made for spiritual builds that changed city growth through old Near East-made culture settings that produced legend figures whose deeds topped usual human skills and set models for hero tales that shaped writings for thousands of years. Among these outstanding people, Gilgamesh, Uruk's half-god king, gained top fame and writing weight, his real rule around 2700 BCE becoming base for humanity's oldest known long poem. The Gilgamesh saga, kept on 12 wedge slabs found in Nineveh's Ashurbanipal archive, gives a layered tale that blends past recall, legend parts, and doctrinal thoughts on hero nature, dying, and sacred human ties. Digs from Uruk confirm a king Gilgamesh ruled in early rule time, showing in Sumerian ruler roster as Uruk first line's 5th ruler, with 126-year rule per legend timeline that marked early regional king records. Uruk finds show huge wall defenses from about 2700 BCE, matching Saga's link of city protect works to Gilgamesh build efforts. These dig finds give past routing for grasping how a real ruler's successes changed via word lore into superhuman deeds in later writing editions. The saga's start slab sets Gilgamesh as 2/3 sacred and 1/3 human, born from goddess Ninsun union with Lugalbanda, a half-god king in earlier Sumerian hero tales. This mixed sacred human line gives Gilgamesh huge body strength, magic endurance, and long life while keeping enough human to feel dying, feeling ties, and death fear that drives the saga's main quest tale. The exact math outline of Gilgamesh's sacred share mirrors regional doctrinal ideas on graded sacred essence nature and chants of beings in middle spots between pure human and pure sacred being. Gilgamesh's body outline in the saga stresses his tall height, strong build, and scary presence that sets him from usual mortals, while setting visual marks of his half-god status. The text outlines him as 11 cubits high, about 5.5 meters, per standard regional measures, with strength to use weapons needing many normal men to lift. His hair in fancy curls to shoulders, and beard shows careful groom marking king status in old regional culture. These body traits set Gilgamesh as visually unique in ways that right away show his magic nature to both writing listeners and tale figures who meet him. The saga's handle of Gilgamesh's harsh rule in early reign gives key views into regional ideas of sacred kingship and right use of magic power in human groups. The text outlines Gilgamesh claiming right-to-bed brides before husbands, demanding too much tax from subjects, and drafting young men for build works serving his own fame, not group good. These power abuses show how magic skills can ruin human judgment without right moral insight and sacred guide limits, setting ideas on power and duty link that repeat through old Near East writings. Uruk citizens reply to Gilgamesh's pressure by asking deities for help, leading sacred assembly to make Enkidu as wild man to challenge king power and force more insight and hold. Enkidu's first outline shows him hair-covered like beast, with huge strength, living among animals in wild without human society or custom know. Enkidu's make from clay by goddess Aruru matches earlier make reports, while setting him as Gilgamesh equal in body power, but opposite in culture growth, making basic contrast, driving their later friend and mutual change. Enkidu's culture process via sex, meet with temple worker Shamhat, stands for squeezed version of humanity's shift from primitive to culture being that changes him from wild creature to refined human, able to challenge Gilgamesh equal. The 7 days and nights sex teach not just human body ties, but also wake his reason mind, moral sense, and feeling tie skill that split culture humans from wild beasts. This change series sets sex as culture force linking people to wider human group, while splitting them from natural beast being. The clash between Gilgamesh and Enkidu happens at wedding room entry, where Gilgamesh plans to use King Right with another man's bride, making conflict testing both hero strength while handling moral issues that sparked Enkidu make. The saga outlines their fight in live detail, with both showing superhuman strength, damaging builds, and shaking ground as they fight for top. Neither gets full win, but mutual see of each other's special skills makes friend base on respect, not give in, changing possible foes into true partners. The friend between Gilgamesh and Enkidu sets hero pair that lets adventures past single-person skills, while giving moral hold, channeling their magic strength to good, not break aims. Their first joint trip targets Humbaba Monster, Cedar Forest Guard, whose beat will give valuable wood for Uruk-build works, while showing hero status via fight with magic foe. The trip to Cedar Forest needs crossing 7 peaks and weeks travel through hard land that would test usual mortals, setting landscale fit for heroes whose skills top normal human limits. Humbaba's outline in the saga shows him as scary look creature whose face like coiled guts, breath makes fire, and voice brings floods, setting him as person of natural forces threat human society. The monster's role as sacred Cedar Forest Guard mirrors regional ideas on magic beings, protect valuable natural resources from human use, making moral gray on if hero quest stands for right resource get or wrong sacred border break. This doctrinal depth adds layers to Adventure Tale by raising questions on right human needs and natural keep link. The real fight with Humbaba shows hero tactic joint and sacred help enabling win over foe whose magic powers first seem unbeatable. Gilgamesh and Enkidu match attacks while getting sun god Shamash support, who sends 13 winds to blind and mix the monster in key battle moments. The win needs both body brave and sacred like, setting example for hero success, mixing human effort with magic help, not relying only on single strength or skill. Humbaba death outcomes include both right-away useful gains and long sacred anger, showing complex moral weights of hero violence, even against monster foes. Cedarwood get lets Major Uruk build works, while hero-shown skills boost their fame and politics power. But Humbaba Destroy also angers deities, who set him as forest guard, making sacred a pose that will shape later events and lead to Enkidu death as penalty for hero bold. The Heaven Bull episode stands for the saga's most direct probe of sacred human clash and risky outcomes of refusing sacred love advances. Ishtar's marriage offer to Gilgamesh gives him sacred status and endless earth joys, for sex give to goddess power. Gilgamesh's no based on Ishtar, past ruining prior lovers, shows moral insight seeing risky sacred human sex ties, while claiming human worth against sacred force. Ishtar's reply to Gilgamesh no includes convincing Father Anu to free Heaven Bull against Uruk, making magic threat endangering whole people, not just single who offended sacred pride. The Heaven Bull's Uruk rampage kills hundreds with each breath and makes huge earth cracks threat city bases, showing how sacred anger can make group penalty for single wrongs. This rise from personal clash to group disaster sets divine fairness patterns that show through old Near East writings. The Heaven Bull beat needs joint efforts of both heroes, working perfect match with Enkidu holding horns, while Gilgamesh gives fatal neck sword thrust. Their win party includes Enkidu insult to Ishtar, throwing bull back parts at goddess and threat similar handle, showing hero trust in skills while showing risky pride that will spark more sacred payback. The public win party temp lifts both heroes to fame peak and people praise, making drama high from which later fall more sad. Enkidu death set by Sacred Assembly as penalty for killing both Humbaba and Heaven Bull changes the saga from adventure tale to deep think on dying, friend, and hero success limits. The deity's choice that one hero must die for wrongs, with Enkidu picked for lower social spot than half-god Gilgamesh, shows random sacred fairness nature and final no power of even super strength against universal power. Enkidu's 12-day die process lets long goodbye scenes probing feeling sides of hero friend, while building to Gilgamesh later fix on avoiding like fate. Gilgamesh change after Enkidu death includes leaving king duties and culture acts to wander wild in beast skins, seeking endless life via varied magic ways, while refusing human dying real. This act back from Culture King to Wild Wander reverses culture process that earlier changed Enkidu from beast to human, hinting mortality phase can undo culture growth and return people to primitive states. Gilgamesh look in this wander time with tangled hair, dirty clothes, and thin body makes visual contrast with early King Grand that stresses mind harm from grief and exist fear. The trip to Utnapishtim, flood escapee who got endless life via sacred grace, needs Gilgamesh to cross Sun Path through Mashu Peak, guarded by scorpion men whose magic nature lets them see his part divinity, while warning on quest impossible. The scorpion men outline includes human tops with scorpion bottoms, wings for flight, and poison stings that can kill mortals right away, setting them as border guards whose role includes testing worth of those seeking divine realm passage. Their Let Gilgamesh Pass shows see of his half-god status, while admitting quest will fail due to set universal law on human dying. The 12-league dark journey in Mashu Peak tests Gilgamesh will, and brave while acting as sign passage between usual and magic exist realms. The saga outlines this trip part in terms stressing sense lack and lost way with Gilgamesh unable to see front or back while feeling way through endless seam passages. This under-journey good finish shows hero stick while setting special nature of Gilgamesh quest via land and magic blocks that would beat usual mortals. The meet with Siduri, divine alemaker at Deathwater's edge, gives key advice on right mortality approach and weight of accepting human limits, not seeking transcend via magic ways. Siduri's first fear of Gilgamesh Wildlook leads her to Bargate and speak via roof hole, making visual stress on how endless life fix changed him to scary figure like mad more than hero king. Her advice to enjoy life's simple joys, keep family ties, and accept natural die cycle stands for usual insight that clashes with hero bold while offering other ways to exist worry. Crossing Death Waters needs help from Urshanabi, Utnapishtim boatman, whose special know lets nav of magic waters that ruin any live being direct touch. The break of stone things usually enabling safe pass forces Gilgamesh to cut forest poles and use each once to push boat, making cross-process needing careful plan and exact do, while stressing risky border between dying and endless realms. This cross-series sets Death Waters as clear barrier splitting usual exist from magic realm where endless beings live. Utnapishtim look as usual man, not visible magic being, surprises Gilgamesh and stresses endless life not always body change or clear divine status marks. The Flood Escapee story retell gives detail back for grasping how he got endless life via sacred grace, not hero effort, setting endless long from supernatural kindness, not human success. This show undermines Gilgamesh. Assume that hero strength and will can beat dying via single effort, forcing see that universal laws work separate from human will or skill. The Stay Awake 7 Days and Nights test by Utnapishtim, as first challenge before Endless Secrets shows Gilgamesh human limits when tired body gives to sleep, despite desperate will to stay aware. Daily bread by Utnapishtim wife near sleeping hero gives solid proof of time pass and will fail to beat basic body needs. This fail sets even half-god beings stay under basic human limits that can't be beat via will alone, prepping for final show that endless stays beyond mortal reach. The youth plant from Sea Bottom got via Gilgamesh dive skills stands for last chance for long life that sees human dying while offering renew and regrow hope. The plant spot under waters needs Gilgamesh tie stones to feet and go to ocean floor, showing extreme steps needed for supernatural fix access while stressing such tries risky nature. The good get of plant makes temp hope that human smart and will might beat dying via natural, not pure magic ways. The plant lost a snake in Gilgamesh return trip gives Saga final lesson on useless human tries to top natural limits via single effort or sacred help. The snake theft happens while Gilgamesh baths in pool, temp relaxing watch of precious plant, and letting natural forces reclaim what he temp got via hero effort. The snake right away shed old skin after plant each shows renew power back to right natural setting, not artificial kept for human gain. The Gilgamesh saga influence on later holy tales shows clearest in before flood heroes and giants reports whose special skills and long lives match supernatural traits to regional legend figures. The Holy Line lists in Genesis outline before flood fathers living ages and doing amazing feats top normal human skills, making tale patterns that echo regional customs on half-god beings, bridging usual mortals and sacred beings. These matches hint either straight writing borrow or joint societal recall of time, when sacred human mix happened more and made offspring with special traits. The Sumerian Anunnaki, outlined in many wedge texts as sacred beings from sky to set society on earth, give most direct match to holy reports of Nephilim and other magic beings who mixed with humanity in before flood time. Sumerian texts outline Anunnaki as sacred assembly making key human fate choices while keeping earth presence via holy complexes and direct mix with chosen human stand-ins. Their role in city found, teach society skills, and make hybrid offspring with human mates makes tale structures that close match holy reports of sacred beings who saw human daughters fair and took wives they chose. Digs from regional sites show art shows of Anunnaki as tall human-like figures with special headwear, fancy clothes, and sign objects marking sacred status while keeping clear human body traits. Tube seals from early rule time show these beings mix with humans in varied settings, including spiritual rites, law acts, and seem teach spots where sacred no sent to human getters. These art shows give visual proof for culture ideas on sacred human mix that add to writing outlines in wedge texts. The Sumerian ruler lists handle of before flood rulers as having extreme long lives that slow dropped in after flood times sets timeline patterns that match Holy Line lists while giving diff exact parts on single figures and their successes. The doc outlines before flood kings ruling 10,000 years before deluge cut king lives to more modest but still super lengths in hundreds, not thousands. This slow long drop hints societal recall of time when sacred sway on human affairs more direct and made people with skills top later human norms. The slow long drop marking after flood rulers per Sumerian timeline structures made useful needs for setting full law systems able to rule human groups without direct presence of half-god kings whose long lives prior gave continuity over many lines. The shift from legend to pastimes needed new ways for keeping social order, fixing fights, and sending culture values via setups, not single charm power. Among lore new that came from this shift, Hammurabi Code around 1750 BCE by Babylon King stands most sway, his name linking to system law and sacred OK of human rule. The black diorite pillar with Hammurabi Code found by French digs at Susa in 1901 stands as one of humanity's top law docs and gives key proof for grasping how regional ideas of sacred law give shaped later holy law customs. The pillar over 2.25 meters high holds 282 single laws carved in wedge below carved show of Hammurabi, getting law power direct from sun god Shamash. The visual show has seated deity hand out to standing king, while flames from Shamash shoulders, making sign images setting sacred okay as source of king law power, not human politics or social deal. Dig's study of pillar build shows refined stonework ways, enabling lasting law pillars made to keep law codes over ages of politics shift and culture change. Hard black diorite choice, extreme hard volcano rock, ensured law texts survive land harm, and purpose break tries while keeping readable for future lines. The careful plan in pillar design, with law text and columns fitting stone natural shape while keeping level setup of law rules, shows system way to law group that puts both useful access and sign lasting first. Hammurabi Code starts its doctrinal basis for king law, give power via detailed outlines of sacred pick and universal okay, that match later holy reports of Moses getting law from Yahweh on Sinai. Hammurabi outlines himself as picked by deities Anu and Enlil to bring fairness to land, wipe wicked and evil, and stop strong oppress weak. The text stresses law power from sacred task, not human politics success, making examples for seeing law as universal rule, not random human norm. This doctrinal structure changes law follow from social ease to spiritual duty, while setting no follow as universal wrong, not just civil no obey. The exact law parts in Hammurabi Code show deep grasp of social depth and economy ties, needing detailed rule to keep group steady and stop weak use. The laws handle property claims, trade deals, family ties, past procedures, and wrong penalties via exact makes that foresee varied settings, and give steady rules for judge choice. The code setup moves from general rules to exact uses, making system law structure, enabling steady manage across diverse groups in Hammurabi growing rule. The even penalty rule, most fame in Lex Talionis, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, shows through Hammurabi Code as basic way ensuring penalties match wrong weight, without allowing too revenge that could grow fights past handle limits. Laws 196 to 201 set exact payback for varied body harms, with social spot of doer and hurt setting precise penalty nature. If high man ruins another high eye, his eye ruined. But if he ruins common eye, he pays money makeup, showing deep social level that sway law use. The code handle of property wrongs sets detailed groups of theft, trick, and harm that mirror complex economy ties needing law shield to keep trade trust and social steady. Law 22 sets death for road rob, while Law 8 needs thieves pay 10 times for stolen sheep or goats, making level penalties matching wrong weight and social hit. The split between property kinds with beasts, land, and personal things getting diff law shield shows grasp of economy level that puts first resources key for group endurance while seeing single own claims. Marriage and family law take big code parts, showing deep grasp of home ties and their hit on wider social steady. Laws 128 to 195 handle marriage deals, split ways, pass claims, and parent power via detailed parts that shield both single claims and family unity. The code sees many marriage forms, including free person unions, slave ties, and temp marriages serving exact economy or social aims. Women get big law shields, including property claims, split start skills, and passports ensuring economy safe while keeping father-led family setups. The code way to trade law shows advanced grasp of economy ties, needing law structures to enable complex deals, while shielding sides from trick and use. Laws ruling deals, loans, holds, and joins set rules of mutual duty and risk share, enabling refined trade act across culture and land borders. The rule of interest caps with top 20% for silver loans and 33% for grain loans shows governed step in economy ties made to stop use while keeping push for invest and trade growth. Earlier regional law customs, before Hammurabi Code by ages, give key setting for grasping growing growth of system law, and sacred law give ideas that later shaped holy law customs. Ur-Nammu Code around 2100 BCE stands for humanity's oldest known system law code, and sets many rules that later show in Hammurabi fuller rule. The Sumerian text holds about 40 laws handling kill, mate wrong, theft, and body harm, via parts stressing money makeup, not body payback, hinting diff culture ways to fairness and social fix. Ur-Nammu law start outlines the king as set by deities Anu and Enlil to set fairness in Sumer and Akkad, wipe evil and harm, and ensure orphans and widows get shield from use. The doctrinal structure close matches later makes in Hammurabi Code, while stressing diff king duty and sacred order parts. Ur-Nammu claims to have made wife and widow my care objects, and set equity in land, making examples for seeing king law give as basic on shielding weak groups, not just keeping politics control. The exact parts in Ur-Nammu Code show law rules putting social fix over payback penalty, with most wrongs needing money pay, not body harms. Law 1 sets if man kills, he killed. But later laws on body harm, property break, and sex wrong set finance penalties figured to fix hurt while stopping future breaks. This focus on fix, not payback fairness, makes diff ways to law fix that sway community heal and unity, not main on penalty and stop. The Lipit Ishtar Code around 1930 BCE by Eshnunna king gives added proof for ongoing growth of regional law customs and slow fine of law rules via useful use and culture fit. The Akkadian text holds about 60 laws handling property claims, family ties, and trade deals via makes building on earlier Sumerian examples, while fitting them to shift social and economy settings. The code setup and words show growing depth in law draft and system law that prepped base for Hammurabi fuller rule. Lipit Ishtar start sets sacred okay for king law, give via words close matching both early and later makes, while stressing exact universal order and social fair parts. The king claims set by deities Anu and Enlil to set fairness in Sumer and Akkad, shield weak from strong oppress, and ensure fairness wins through land. The doctrinal structure places law power as sacred order, not human politic success, while stressing king duty for keeping universal order via right fairness manage. The idea of sacred law give filling regional law customs mirrors deep doctrinal grasp of universal order and human social setup link that deeply shaped holy ideas of sacred rule and ethical power. Regional texts steady outline kings getting law power direct from top deities, keeping universal order via universal rules, ruling both natural events and human acts. This doctrinal structure changes law from human norm to universal rule, making religious duties for law follow, while setting sacred verdict as final power for law explain and use. The sun god Shamash shows through regional law texts as main sacred source of fairness and law power, with his role as hidden truth light, making him fit for judge duties, needing see between rival claims and right proof check. Art shows steady show Shamash as beard figure with shoulder flames, holding rod and ring fairness signs, while throne-seated stressing his universal power. The gods tie with solar events and law verdict makes sign links between natural order and social fair that shaped law explain and judge way. Marduk's rise to top power in Babylon doctrine in Hammurabi rule needed blend of law roles prior tied to other deities, making blend doctrine systems, keeping usual ideas while fitting them to new politics and spiritual settings. Hammurabi Code outlines Marduk as top god who set Hammurabi to set fairness through land, effectively shifting law power from older Sumerian deities to Babylon national god, while keeping link with early law customs. This doctrine fit shows how law ideas could endure politics shifts via spiritual re-explain, keeping key rules while changing exact parts. The holy law codes in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy hold many exact matches to regional law customs, hinting either straight writing borrow or joint heritage from common Old Near East law ideas. The Holy Lex Talionis make in Exodus 21:24, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, uses same words and law rule as Hammurabi Code, while fitting it to diff doctrine and social settings. The Holy Edition stresses equal fairness no matter social spot, wiping class diffs marking regional uses of even penalty. Holy Property Law holds detailed parts matching regional law customs while fitting them to herd and farm groups with diff economy setups and social groups. The theft rule laws in Exodus 22 need multiple makeup for stolen beasts with diff penalties for varied animal kinds and theft settings, making level penalty systems close matching regional examples. The holy focus on shielding weak groups, including widows, orphans, and outsiders, mirrors law rules showing steady through regional law customs while fitting them to deal doctrine structures. Marriage and family law in holy law codes shows broad matches to regional customs while adding special doctrine parts mirroring one God faith commits and deal social setups. The holy laws ruling marriage deals, split ways, and pass claims hold exact parts, close matching regional examples, while wiping many god parts and fitting law rules to father clan setups. The Shield of Women property claims, pass parts, and economy safe mirrors law growths showing through old Near East law customs, while fitting them to exact culture and spiritual settings. The holy idea of sacred law give via Moses at Sinai uses doctrine structures close matching regional customs of king law power from direct sacred set and universal okay. The tale outlines Moses getting law slabs direct from Yahweh on sacred peak, making visual and idea matches to art shows of regional kings getting law power from top deities. The stress on sacred, not human source for law power changes law follow to spiritual duty while setting sacred verdict as final power for law, explain, and social setup. The blend of right and civil law in holy law codes showing grasp of law as universal rule made lasting structures, keeping old regional law ideas while fitting them to new culture settings. Yet this Zen process included far more layered paths than simple direct take between near societies. The path of Sumerian tales, law rules, and doctrine ideas from 3rd millennium Mesopotamia origins to final blend into holy writings needed many stages of culture send, tongue change, and doctrine re-explain over almost 2,000 years. Diggs proof and compare text studies show this send happened via exact past channels, traceable via doc proof, culture artifacts, and tongue growth across line societies. The Akkad rule take of Sumerian city spots around 2334 BCE started first key culture send stage by making 2 tongue admin systems needing system change of Sumerian law, spiritual, and writing text to Akkadian tongue while keeping key content and culture weight. Akkadian record keepers made refined changeways, keeping doctrine and law power of original Sumerian texts while fitting tongue and culture notes to serve new politics and social settings. The royal stores at Akkad held broad Sumerian text groups with side Akkadian changes, making standard editions shaping all later regional writing customs. Akkadian change acts included more than tongue switch. They needed culture explain, keeping key meanings, while fitting exact parts to serve diff listeners and social setups. Sumerian deluge tales grew and changed to stress ideas, fit to Akkad rule thought, while origin legends got added doctrine notes mirroring growing spiritual ideas. Law codes got system change, keeping basic rules while fitting exact parts to serve bigger land managers and more layered economy ties. These change processes made blend writing customs, mixing Sumerian content with Akkadian explain, setting example for culture, fit marking all later Sen stages. The Old Babylon time, special in Hammurabi rule around 1750 BCE, saw system group and standard of regional writing customs making authority editions of old tales, while fitting them to serve rule admin needs and spiritual growths. Babylon writing schools made full learn plans needing students master both Sumerian and Akkadian editions of classic texts, ensuring right send while enabling ongoing fit to shift culture settings. The Gilgamesh saga got standard 12 slab form in this time via edit processes mixing early Sumerian stories with new Akkadian stuff, making edition shaping all later Old Near East writings. Babylon spiritual changes in Old Babylon time lifted Marduk to top sacred power, while system adding traits and tales prior tied to older Sumerian deities, making blend doctrine systems, keeping old customs in new spiritual structures. The Babylon origin saga Enuma Elish mixed parts from many early make reports while fitting them to praise Marduk cosmic power and back Babylon politics top. These doctrine blends made standard legend customs, keeping key Sumerian content while serving now politics and spiritual aims, setting additions sent to later cultures. The Neo-Assyria rule growth between 911 and 609 BCE made unmatched chances for culture swap and writing send by setting admin systems linking regional cores with edge areas including Syria, Palestine, and Anatolia. Assyria King Stores, Special Ashurbanipal Nineveh Group, hold most full archives of old regional writings ever made, including 1,000 slabs keeping Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylon texts in careful setup groups. These stores acted as holds for culture send while enabling system study and explain of old customs by experts from whole rule. Assyria admin acts needed local officials and under rulers grasp regional law and spiritual customs, making learn systems spreading old writing customs through rule land reach. Province centers set writing schools, teaching wedge write, and classic writings to local tops, ensuring culture blend while keeping rule admin work. Digs proof from spots including Damascus, Samaria, and Jerusalem shows Assyria culture sway, spreading past politics control to include writing, spiritual, and law customs from old regional sources. The Assyria forces ruin of North Israel Kingdom in 722 BCE started direct touch between regional writing customs and Hebrew culture tops via move policies relocating big Israel people parts to regional city centers. Wedge slabs from Assyria admin archives dock Israel move presence in cities, including Nineveh, Kalhu, and Guzana, where they met regional writing customs direct while keeping own culture and spiritual self. This forced culture touch made settings for writing swap shaping Hebrew tale customs via direct show to regional classic writings. The Babylon take of Jerusalem in 586 BCE and later move of Judah tops to Babylon made most weight chance for Hebrew meet with regional writing customs and set past setting for system fit of old tales into holy writings. The Babylon exile brought Hebrew record keepers, clerics, and learn classes into direct touch with world's most refined writing culture, while giving access to stores and learn spots keeping thousands years built insight. Digs proof from Babylon shows Jewish groups keeping culture self while joining wider regional mind life, making settings for culture blend deeply shaping holy writings. Wedge slabs found at Babylon, dock Judah exile presence in spots needing read, and culture know including admin roles, needing know of regional law and writing customs. The Murashu Nippur archive holds hundreds docs noting business deals with Jewish families in 5th and 4th centuries BCE, showing ongoing Jewish presence in regional city centers long after exile official end. These groups acted as paths for culture, enabling Hebrew experts to meet regional customs while keeping culture special needed for creative fit, not simple mix. The Persia take of Babylon in 539 BCE made new politic settings easing culture swap while enabling Jewish groups keep spiritual and culture self in mixed rule system, encouraging local customs, not forcing culture same. Persia admin rules pushed restore of local spiritual acts and group of usual writings, making official back for Jewish writing works, incorporating old regional customs into Hebrew spiritual texts. Cyrus' order allowing Jewish Palestine return and holy rebuild gave politics structure for system group of holy writings, drawing on both Hebrew customs and regional sources met in exile time. Persia time Jewish groups in both Mesopotamia and Palestine kept broad touches, enabling ongoing culture swap and joint writing works over many lines and land spots. Diggs' proof from spots including Elephantine and Babylon shows Jewish groups sharing writing customs and keeping letters on spiritual and culture growths. These links eased send of regional writing customs met in exile time, while enabling system blend into growing holy writings via joint edit processes. Aramaic growth as common tongue through Persia rule made new chances for culture, send by giving shared tongue, enabling talk between groups with diff home tongues and culture backs. Aramaic changes of both regional and Hebrew writing customs eased culture swap, while enabling compare study showing idea matches and tail likes. Aramaic use in Jewish groups through Persia rule made standard editions of usual tales, incorporating parts from many culture sources, while keeping Hebrew spiritual self and doctrine special. Hellenistic time culture growths after Alexander takes in 334 to 323 BCE made new mind settings, encouraging system compare of diff culture customs and pushing blend ways to writings, thought, and faith. Greek mind methods, stressing logic study and system setup, shaped Jewish expert ways to usual writings, while giving idea structures for grasping culture links and past growth. The Hebrew wholly changed to Greek in 3rd and 2nd centuries BCE needed system study of Hebrew writing customs, showing their links to wider Old Near East culture patterns. The group of holy writings in Persia and Hellenistic times included refined edit processes, system blending regional tale customs into Hebrew spiritual texts, while fitting them to serve one God doctrine structures and deal social setups. Hebrew editors made new ways for adding old tales, while changing doctrine weights via careful pick, change, and reset of usual stuffs. The Genesis make legends show these edit ways via system fit of regional make reports, keeping key tale setups while wiping many God parts and stressing one God sacred power. The Genesis Deluge tale stands for maybe most full sample of Hebrew fit of regional writing customs, mixing parts from many old sources while making unified report serving holy doctrine aims. The Holy Edition keeps exact parts from regional deluge reports, including build specs, creature keep ways, and Bird Scout series while fitting doctrine structure to stress sacred fairness, not random sacred no-like. This fit shows refined edit ways, keeping tale true, while changing doctrine weights to serve one God faith commits. Holy law codes show like fit ways, keeping key regional law rules while changing use to serve deal social setups and one God spiritual structures. The holy editions of Lex Talionis, property law, and family rules keep basic law ideas from regional customs, while wiping class diffs and fitting exact parts to serve equal social ideals. These fits show system edit processes, seeing law customs as culture resources modifiable to serve diff social and spiritual aims. while keeping key work good. The change of many god regional tales into one god Hebrew spiritual writings needed refined doctrine, re-explain keeping key tale works, while fitting cosmic and social weights to serve diff faith commits. Hebrew editors made new ways for wiping many deities from usual tales, while keeping drama setup and doctrine weight via giving all sacred acts to single top deity. The Genesis make reports show these ways via system mix of many regional make customs into unified tales stressing single sacred power, not sacred assemblies or rival cosmic forces. The holy handle of sacred human ties mirrors careful fit of regional customs on half-god heroes and sacred step-keeping key tale parts while changing doctrine weights to serve one god's spiritual structures. The Before Flood Fathers reports, sacred messengers, and magic steps keep structure matches to regional customs while wiping parts hinting separate sacred beings or rival cosmic powers. These fits show edit depth seeing tale customs as doctrine resources system, modifiable to serve diff spiritual aims while keeping culture true and feeling hit. The keep of exact regional tale parts in holy writings shows system nature of Hebrew edit processes and proves extent to which old customs valued as culture resources worth careful keep even when original doctrine setting needed change. The hold of precise build specs in deluge tales, detailed line info in make reports, and exact law makes in holy codes shows edit commit to keeping culture true while fitting doctrine structures to serve one, God faith commits. This great blend sway spread far past old Jewish groups to shape base tales of Christian and Islam, making faith customs keeping old regional insight in one God doctrine structures, shaping West society for thousands years. The holy writings from this blend process became base for faith customs spreading through Europe, Africa, and later Americas, carrying old regional tales and law rules to cultures no direct touch with original regional sources. These fit customs lasting sway proves good keep of old insight via culture send processes keeping key content while fitting to serve new spiritual and social aims. The expertcy of these send paths has changed grasp of holy writings and old Near East culture links while giving new views on faith customs growth and old insight keep. Diggs finds and compare writing study keep showing added links between regional and holy customs while proving refined edit processes enabling good culture send across tongue, time, and faith borders. This ongoing study confirms holy writings stand not alone culture make, but system fit of humanity's oldest recorded insight customs, keeping old views on human essence, sacred power, and social setup in faith structures keep shaping now society. The great blend changing Sumerian clay slabs to holy scrolls stands for one of humanity's most good culture keep works, showing how old insight can endure politics upsets, tongue shifts, and faith changes via careful fit keeping key views, while changing culture show to serve new settings. These kept customs lasting sway confirms basic worth for grasping human life and universal order, while good send proves chance of keeping culture link across huge changes marking human past growth. Via this amazing blend, Sumerian record keepers' voices keep speaking to now listeners, their old insight kept in faith customs shaping West society, and keep shaping human grasp of our spot in universal order.